So when it comes to sowing seeds, there's often questions about, do I cover the seeds or do I lay them on the surface? So I just want to show you how I do it here in my garden. So down here actually I have, as you notice, I have some really big seeds and some really chunky ones and some really tiny ones. Here's verbena, these are really tiny. And I have phlumis here, they are also really big. And I have echinacea over here, that's also really big. So my general rule is that the teeny tiny ones, they need light to germinate. So those I'll just sprinkle on top on the surface. The phlumis as well, together with the echinacea. These are really like chunkier ones, so they need to be covered by soil. So here's actually how I've done it. As you can see, I have echinacea here, and I used my little spray and had a few handfuls of soil, and then I added some water, and then the seeds, really just roughly added a handful of soil on top, sprayed again with my sprayer here and with a name tag. And notice these trays here are just reusable ones I reuse every year. I made some drainage holes so extra water can get out. And then I pop them in the greenhouse together with also the phlumis is the same. As you can see, it's covered the same way as the echinacea. But then notice over here the verbena, I've just sprinkled the seeds on top and sprayed with water. And also mutual for all of these three ones are that the seed needs changing temperatures to germinate. So that means here in the beginning of January, it's super great to sow. And you really are in this mood after Christmas. I really get fidgety. I want to go out in the garden, sow a bunch of things. So I can really get that covered by putting a bunch of seeds in my unheated greenhouse, and then nature will do, actually it's everything the rest. I don't have to do anything. So around March, when I've had these cold temperatures, hot temperatures, they will start to germinate, and I can then plant them out in the garden. You could also, if you wanted to, sow them. I do that sometimes too in a much deeper pot here, because using this one is a benefit about that is that you can actually plant them directly out in the garden instead of repotting, because here it's really shallow, but you can of course get more seeds. I kind of do both things because sometimes it's just easier not having 100 of these trays. I have shelves, so I made the greenhouse really great for that. But otherwise you could just add like 5 seeds in this one, and then once they have the second set of leaves, you could plant it directly out in the garden. So you kind of skip that other step here. So if I have time, I do some of these and then also some of these, a kind of a mix. But then also what I only have to do actually is, if I see the surface starting to dry out, I have my pump here and just spray a little bit on the surface here. Be careful not to overwater, because then your seeds starts to rot. So just if it looks a little dry. So I'll pop these in the greenhouse, and eventually I'm gonna show you how they look. I'll give you a little update later on in the season, so I hope you'll continue watching. Moin!